Hello, Hockey World. How are you doing? Today is February 8th, 2017.
I'm Michael Agello.
And I'm Ekman. And you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. And we don't think this is not disheartening or whatever. Did you hear that thing that went on?
What's that?
You hear the latest, the judge?
No, I haven't heard.
Yeah, it's just this. It's just look it up. You'll see it later. But
if it's political, let's not go into it.
But it's disheartening, and I forgot the other word. But he was really interesting. So anyway, I was impressed. I was impressed by the Supreme Court judge. That's all I can say. Led by the nominated Supreme Court judge, I was impressed by him. So there you have it. Okay. Okay, so let's get started though. Right into this because we're gonna do a quick show today. So I apologize for being late. A lot of stuff going on today. I also had my son's has a medical thing had to happen today, so that took us out of it a little while. But I did get to a lot of your questions today, and it was really fun time doing that blog and answering questions with you guys. Thanks for so many great questions. All right, so let's start up with Martin Havlat officially retiring today, which is
pretty decent NHL career. San Jose, Ottawa. I mean, the last few years he was sort of moving around different places. I say an above average NHL forward when he found the right line mates, he was effective.
Remember he was really injury prone. I mean, I think he was at his best when he was in Chicago, I think that's when he was at the point of his career where when he played unbelievably well but he hardly played at all. Like he was hurt all the time.
Yeah, well, the injuries were always a problem with him. Yeah. Yes, I mean, especially in Ottawa when that was when they were contending, top contenders in the East, and he had a couple good years in Chicago, as you said, 25 and 29 goals, but the bulk of his career, I think he spent the first 7 years of his career with the Senators, and I think he had his best year, which was 31 goals with them. That was
he was part of that Hossa Havlat Senators team.
Yeah,
that was really good for a while there. The Patrick Lalime Senators, I guess you would say.
Yeah. The Senators that lost to the Maple Leafs every single year.
Yeah, and beat the Flyers. That was when the Flyers couldn't beat the Senators. The Senators couldn't beat the Leafs, and the Leafs couldn't beat the Flyers. That was all that. There's three teams. There was a ridiculous triangle between those three teams at that point in time.
Yeah, but unusually, if you look at his career, the last 5 years of his career, he never got over 48 games. He played 40 of 48 in a lockout shortened season, but the last 5 years were 39, 40, 48, 40, and 2.
Right. That's fascinating. But I remember him in Chicago, and I know he had his great numbers, but I just remember there was a point at which he was playing with the Hawks, and this is when the Hawks were still struggling. But when he was in the lineup, was just made the team so much better, but he just couldn't keep him in the lineup. He was still a good player. So here's an incredible stat. Okay, we don't usually start with the incredible stat today, but I'm going to start with the incredible stat today. The Metropolitan Division, okay, has a goal differential of plus 125. The other three divisions all have negative goal differentials. How crazy is that? That's just I don't know. That's really, the Metropolitan Division.
It's oversimplification to say that obviously it's a sign that's the best division in hockey, but so okay, that's really insightful. But I mean, right now, after a little while, when it seemed to look like all the five teams, the top three, and then the two wild cards were going to come from the Metro. It's a little closer now. Now all of a sudden Philadelphia's fallen back, but the thing that's surprising about that though is you have two of the worst teams in that division that are minus Philadelphia and New Jersey, but Washington and Columbus and the Rangers and Pittsburgh are so far ahead in goal differential that they make up for it.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and I always think that I'm a big goal differential person. I think that's a big sign of how good your team actually is, because you can't really tell anymore with the wins and losses because of the 1 point system. But I think you can tell how good a team is by if they're a plus or a minus in goal differential. I really do think that. I do think that a team that is about zero is really. I call that's my version of 500 these days. Like if you have a 0 goal differential, you are as good as you are bad. In my mind, and that's pretty much it works out when you look at the teams that are that way. If you're a minus goal differential, you are not a 500 team. And I don't care what your record says to me. You're not. You might make the playoffs because you get these extra points for winning, for losing, or whatever. But yeah, that's how it feels to me.
Two of the other divisions, they have basically boat anchors in their division that kill them from having a chance to be, have a positive overall goal differential. Colorado's minus 65, Arizona's minus 45, Vancouver's minus 29. So that's the problem with that. Whereas I know that the Metro has Philadelphia and New Jersey that are in the 20s, but the rest of the division is so way far ahead. But I don't know. I don't know how much weight I put into goal differential. I think there are extenuating circumstances. A team like St. Louis is a good team, but their goaltending is hideous. So I mean, obviously that has more. The goal differential has more of an effect for their having bad goaltending than anything else, and them being a bad defensive team.
Yeah, but I think it's actually a good all around stat. I don't think it just has to do with goaltending because it obviously has to do with goaltending, but it also does play into your team defense and if you can score goals. I mean, it really does have all three aspects to it. So I think if you're going to look for just a straight up team stat, I think that's the best one. I don't know. It's but I see your point. Now Pierre LeBrun is saying preliminary discussions have started between the Dallas Stars and the Pittsburgh Penguins on Marc-Andre Fleury. This is an interesting. Pierre LeBrun knows what he's talking about. Obviously, he's a top guy, and he's very connected, especially with Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
So and one of my keys always to reading the tea leaves on rumors is you got to know who's connected where. LeBron is definitely connected in Pittsburgh and Los Angeles and a couple other places, but those are his big cities.
But this is a long-term move for Dallas, obviously, because Fleury's got 2 more years left in his contract. I watched Dallas last night lose to the Leafs with Curtis McElhinney in goal. And I'll tell you something right now. They have a lot of talent on the blue line, but there's a lot of inexperience there, and that's probably going to end up costing Lindy Ruff his job. They're not scoring as much as normally they used to. A guy like Cody Eakin has 1 goal in I think 32 games. Sagan and Ben have not repeated what they did last year, but the goaltending is hideous, and they're I think 6 points out of the wild card spot, and that sounds like that's not too much, but when you have to jump over 4 or 5 teams, it is. So this is a move this is a move not aimed for this year. This is a move aimed for the next 2 years, and maybe saving Lindy Ruff his job because Niemi and Lettinen have not done him any favors. Right,
and I know they've also talked to Ryan Miller. Talked about Ryan Miller as well. From what I've heard, and this was just last week. Now things have changed, obviously, because LeBron's saying this. But as of last week, when I talked to somebody in Dallas, they said there was no chance they were going to get another goalie. They really felt that they talked to everybody they could, and they said they were stuck with their 2 goalies now, and they don't think their goalies are terrible, but what would happen in this deal would be one of those goalies would go to Pittsburgh.
Well, that's the thing. Where is the benefit there for Pittsburgh? I mean, okay, the only benefit is, okay, I mean, you can expose either one of Lettinen or Niemi and not worry about it, whereas Fleury has the no move clause, and it could be complicated.
I mean, they'll also get something out of it too. I mean, there will be a draft pick or something. There will be something else that comes to Pittsburgh in this deal.
Well, maybe, but let me just extrapolate for 1 second, because if say it's a flip of goaltenders and it's Niemi going to Pittsburgh, his contract he only has 1 more year left, whereas Fleury has 2. So that's a benefit for Pittsburgh. But Pittsburgh might still want to add either a defenseman or a forward. They're in ad mode because they're going to make the playoffs. You've got some interesting options there, like Johnny Oduya, who's injured right now, like Patrick Sharp, who makes a big ticket, but I'm not sure the Penguins would be able to fit him in. But Oduya's on the IR right now, and he potentially, if it's somebody who will be out until near the end of the year, they could take that contract on and wait until the playoffs and then bring him back.
He would be the perfect person for them to pick up in this deal. Right. I mean, Oduya would be because he's got playoff experience. And I think they would go for Niemi because of the same reason. I think they would go with Niemi's playoff experience as well. And Marc-Andre Fleury has not been great in the playoffs. So the idea here would be, Niemi could come in and do a reasonable job for them if they have to. But and Murray's their guy, so it gives Marc-Andre Fleury a chance to go someplace else, which I think he desperately needs. I don't know if he knows he needs it, but I think he eventually will be happy that he needs it, that he does this if they do make this move.
I don't think Pittsburgh. I mean, everything that I've heard, everything that you've heard about Fleury is that it's not going to be a complicating thing. That he's got that no move clause, he's going to waive it. Honestly, I wouldn't want to put myself in a vulnerable position that Marc-Andre Fleury has that no move and all of a sudden changes his mind 2 weeks before the expansion draft and says, you know what, I want to stay in Pittsburgh. You got to move him.
Remember, Marc-Andre Fleury is represented by Alan Walsh too, so that also plays into this thing too, because Alan Walsh is not one who's going to let him just waive his no trade clause for anything. Right. He's going to make sure that this is a game. So
he can be trusted.
Oh yeah, that's something to be looking forward to there. Some tweets in the future. Lord knows tweets can't hurt anyone.
Yeah. Well, he's blocked me, so I don't care.
Right. So there you go. So that's going to be fun to watch. I'm chasing a rumor which I wanted to get to with the LA Kings, and I don't know if this has been out today in other places because I've been busy running around, but the idea here is that John Stevens might be getting promoted in LA, and he's an assistant coach right now. Now, I don't know what that means if you're an assistant coach and you're getting promoted.
Well, I mean,
could that mean that he's taking over the head coaching job? And I think the answer is yes. It could mean that.
It could be a Mikey O scenario where he's made the associate head coach, and it's made clear that he is going to ascend to the throne whenever Daryl Sutter decides to retire. That's sort of been assumed. I mean, he's been there for a while, but maybe they're giving this the stamp of if that's what's going on. Maybe they're giving them that, let it be known, giving the stamp of approval to say, okay, everybody else, you don't even bother asking to talk to him. He's going to be our guy when Daryl decides he wants to retire.
Yeah, and that could be soon because I definitely have heard things about Daryl Sutter not enjoying. I mean, Daryl Sutter never looks like he's enjoying life, so it's hard to say. I mean, when you watch him, we watched him the other night in Philly here, and so miserable looking on the bench, and I've seen him win Stanley Cups and be miserable. Well, he's just the way he is, but he's got such a hold on this team. There's such a huge difference between him and John Stevens, personality-wise. I know John Stevens pretty well because he was here in Philly for a while. I covered him. When he was in Philly, he was too young to be a head coach. They made him a head coach too young, and you can see that now he's got a lot of respect, and people think he's going to be a great head coach. And I'm sure he will be because he's already done it. And he definitely has gained a lot of experience because in Philly he was over his head. But I don't think he is. I don't think he would be now. So,
well, I mean, this couldn't have been a very easy season for Daryl Sutter. I mean, right now they're sort of battling for a playoff spot, but losing quick. There's not a lot of cap room, not a lot of maneuverability there, and that team is sort of going to be at a crossroads after this season because you've got guys like Toffoli and Pearson that are RFAs. There's probably going to have to be somebody moved. There's going to be some changes. There's going to have to be some changes. So maybe this is it. Maybe this is a signal that he's going to coach out the year and then retire. I mean, we don't know, but I think that would be a sign that that's the case if they do name Stevens an associate head coach and make clear that he's going to be the new guy.
Right. Yep. Keep an eye on that. I've heard lots of rumblings about Hitchcock in Vegas over the last day or so too. Thinking that could happen sooner than later. I do think McPhee is gonna jump on one of these guys sooner than later because it's obvious that the next coach that gets fired is they're gonna have Julian or Gallant or Hitchcock to choose from, and those are three significant players. So
I think Hitch in Vegas makes all the sense in the world. I mean, the news out there the last 48 hours is that he's sort of like, he's just not talking to anybody. He's shut down mode. He's just going to go take vacation and relax and whatever. And that could be cover for him talking to Vegas. And honestly, it's a great opportunity for him to teach. There's not going to be any expectation of winning. I mean, they want to be competitive, and maybe Hitchcock, with the type of style that he coaches, they can be competitive. I don't think, I hear people say, "Oh, I think Vegas is going to be content for a playoff spot." Are you high? There's no way. I don't care how favorable the rules are for the expansion draft. This team will not compete for a playoff spot in the Western Conference, not for the first 2 to 3 years. If they're competitive, that's what whoever Bill Foley and McVee want, because they can bring in people and say, here's an exciting brand of hockey, or we're not going to get trounced every night. But to think that they have a chance at the playoffs, it's a bridge too far. But I think Hitchcock fits with that scenario.
He does, and like I said, I think it would be good for him mentally to go to that situation, and he's definitely one of the best teaching coaches out there. So it's a perfect spot. It takes a special kind of coach. Barry Trotz did a great job in Nashville. It just takes a different kind of coach to pull this off.
And as much as Hitchcock is a fit in Vegas, I don't think Julian is a fit. I think Julian, he's younger. He's won a Stanley Cup like Hitchcock has, but I think Julian, after coming out of Boston, is going to want to go to a situation where he thinks he can win quicker.
Yeah.
That's why I say the Islanders, or there are a number of teams that may think that they need to change the coach to have a better chance. And like say if Lindy Ruff gets fired in Dallas,
right.
Dallas with a new goaltender, if that's a possibility, and what they have. Julian.
I thought of Florida for Claude Julien too. Like that seems like a good place for him.
Yeah.
If he was to go someplace. But there's a lot. And there's a lot of other spots. Last night, some crazy games too. I just wanted to touch on briefly. How about Colorado shutting out Montreal 4-0?
Yeah.
Montreal has played very poorly over the last 2 weeks, and people are not really. They really have completely. They came into Philly, they lost 3-1. They then got beaten up on in, I think it was Washington. After that, then they did manage to beat Edmonton by a goal, I think.
1-0. In overtime.
Right. Yeah, so they're not scoring goals at all. And then last night to lose 4-0 to Colorado, and to have like Mikko Rantanen score a hat trick against you, which is really also pretty crazy.
Well, Colorado is playing with no pressure on themselves now, because that there's no expectations now, and a kid like Rantanen is getting a lot of ice time because he's the future. But Montreal's not playing well. Carey Price has not played well for a while. He's playing good, but he's not playing like Carey Price, and that's got to be a concern for Bergevin, because they need Carey Price to be Carey Price for them to have a chance.
Yeah,
and this can't be the best news for them if they're actually going out there and trying to make trades for a center before the deadline, because the price is only going to go up, because if they keep losing, they're going to be more desperate.
That's very true. I agree. Quick hit here again. Sportsnet. This is a little further for you techie, geeky people out there. I love this kind of stuff. You guys know this. They are launching for the next couple Saturday nights.
Hey, it's Sophia from Sportsnet, and it's
here so I can tell you what's going on here.
Huge sports fan, so I was so excited when I got my Molson Canadian VR.
Here we go. Did I just cut you off, Mike? Where are you? Did I just cut Mike out? Might have just hung up on Mike. That's pretty funny. Anyway, call back, Mike. Let me invite you again. I tried to cut Sophia off there, and I cut off Mike. Invite. Here we go. All right, so Sportsnet is going to do something that this is from Sportsnet. Beginning February 18th, fans can immerse themselves in NHL action via 360 VR, giving them a unique front row experience in select Canadian arenas over the course of 6 marquee Saturday night matchups. So if you're a VR person and like I am, I love VR, and I think it's a phenomenal thing for the future. This is going to be a blast to watch games in VR. I'm guessing with Google Cardboard, or I hope they do it on some of the higher end VR things. Like I have. Hey, Mike, sorry, I think I cut you off somehow there.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I'm back.
Trying to close another window, and somehow I closed you. I don't know how. I didn't even know I could. I didn't even know I could do that.
believe me, you've done something that a lot of people would like to do, hang up on me.
Now I know. Now I know I can. But I was talking about Sportsnet doing some VR games, filming some VR games over the next 6 weeks. I love this kind of stuff, so it's something I don't think you'll be able to see down here in the U.S. But hockey definitely, from a fan's perspective, I always think that so much goes on away from the play in hockey that you can't really see unless you're at the game. And what I love about this idea is to be able to look back and say, if something happens from away from the play, being able to see what's going on. I really think this could be fun. So I'm all for technology.
Yeah, I'm all for technology. I mean, I liked some of the things like the cameras in the posts and the referee cam. The one thing that I can't remember what show I was listening to and forgot that remember at the beginning when Sportsnet took over from TSN. One of the things that they had used was that camera, sort of like the NFL camera, on the tether going back and forth, and they really have stopped using that. I thought it was a cool view, but apparently I don't know if it's cost or if it's just the fact that they didn't think it was very innovative, but they sort of stopped using it. I thought that was pretty interesting.
I liked it a lot, and I've always been a big fan of the view from behind the goals, which I often call the video game view, like because that's how you play when you play the EA Sports games. You play with that view from behind the goal. But that's where I get, if I buy tickets to games, which when I'm not in the press box, I will always try to buy tickets behind a goal, high up. That's my favorite place to be, because you see the play developing, and I think those cameras behind there, or sometimes they'll hang the cameras from the scoreboard facing towards the goal. I think that's great, especially for power plays and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that angle. So hopefully we get more. I'm all about trying to come up with new ways of filming this game. VR I know is a little gimmicky right now, but I think it's not only going to be a matter of a couple of years before everybody has some sort of VR set up in their house.
Well, yeah, I mean it's like anything. Everybody's getting their 4K TVs now, and then in a year 4K will be obsolete, and they're onto the new technology. So it's like
once you've screwed around with VR, like I believe this VR Oculus 5 that we played around with here. And you play games with that, it's amazing. You just realize you're stepping in the future. So when I've watched some movies in VR now, it's just amazing. So I think that if you do it right, and they're doing it right, it's not going to be the Google Glass type thing, or that you're at the Google Cardboard stuff with your cell phone. I mean, doing it right, it's going to be putting it through a really good system with a really good screen. But for now, this is a starting point. So I think there you have it. Couple quick things. I'm sorry, my cold. Sorry for my.
Well, let me just touch on one thing here, because it was pretty interesting. I checked around a number of games last night. One of them was San Jose Buffalo, and San Jose, I believe, was up 4-1 in the third period, and Buffalo came back, tied the game, and won it in overtime. I think it was Evander Kane who scored the goal.
Yeah.
An interesting little thing here. San Jose has won, I believe, twice in their entire history in Buffalo. The one time they won was the day after the Joe Thornton trade, and they've won one other. I think they've lost 16 games in Buffalo. It's the most bizarre thing.
The last time they won was the day after the Joe Thornton trade. So the other one was before that. Yep, I saw that. That is pretty. That's insane. How some teams have certain cities where they just can't win.
Yeah, I mean, they must love the chicken wings or something like that. I don't know what the hell was going on, but they were up 4-1. Buffalo came back, and Buffalo's playing a little better lately. I don't know if they can climb back into the race. I mean, to the point that they're not going to sell off at the deadline, because I think they're sort of in the border between sell off and standing pat, or maybe even buying. But they're getting most of their injured players back. I think Georges is back, and the only one who's not is Bogosian.
Yeah.
The intent of that team was to compete for a playoff spot, and if they make a run, then maybe they make some sort of move on March the 1st, to improve their chances. But I don't know. I'm in the category where if you can trade a Brian Giunta or some of the UFAs like Cody Franzen and get something for them, I would think that they would be better off doing that. But I think they want to make a run for the playoffs.
Oh yeah. Couple last things here. A couple of rumors revolving Seattle. So first one is Chris Hansen, who is the head guy out there running the whole Seattle bid, have submitted a basically what they call a street petition, which means that you have to go and get signatures from around where the arena would be built Just people saying they want the arena to be built there. They're okay because otherwise people can just jump up and say, you have to have everybody in the neighborhood sign it, say we want the arena. And they got it, and they submitted it for 100% privately funded multipurpose arena in Seattle. And then, so that comes out just a little while ago. And then after that, there's a report, and I'm trying to find out where this report is. I think this was on NBC. Yes, I was on NBC Sports, which is always interesting because remember, NBC Sports is a
Comcast.
They're not just Comcast. They're a they're an outlet that actually pays money to the NHL. So,
sure.
But it actually comes from the Glendale newspaper that says the people from the Coyotes in the past 3 months toured the Key Arena in Seattle and the Moda Center in Portland. This is and they won't say who it was, but
you know what this does? This smacks to me of leverage because
yes, exactly.
Maybe they knew, maybe only because we know that last Friday was when that announcement came out that ASU was backing out of the deal. I mean, that basically would mean that Arizona's owners currently would have to walk back hat in hand to Glendale and say, "Can you please let us play in your arena?" But no, if they've done their due diligence about Seattle or Portland, and honestly, I know that the Key Arena, from reading other articles, is not suited for hockey right now. There would have to be a renovation, which would lead me to believe that Portland would have a leg up. But
unless you know that another arena is being built, I mean, in which case you can go to the Key Arena for a year,
right?
And, be all right with it.
Right. I mean, the thing is, though, and it's a little confusing because it sounds like there are two competing situations here. There's one proposal to revamp the Key Arena for NBA and for NHL, and then there's this Hansen bid where it's a completely new stadium. So I don't know if they would work in concert or if this is two competing bids, but that's sort of what would have to be straightened out before there's any kind of move forward toward going to Seattle.
I mean, so the owner of Anthony LeBlanc, who is the Coyotes president, and CEO, says we will continue. It says, unfortunately, it appears the ASU deal will not be moving forward. We will continue to explore other options that will ensure a successful future for the team and our fans. We are a determined bunch on and off the ice. We intend to do everything we can to keep the NHL hockey here in Arizona. And some of this stuff is, when I hear it appears the ASU deal will not be moving forward, I'm reaffirming what I was told the other day, that's not actually totally dead yet. So I do buy into your theory completely that this is a negotiation of something put out through the paper in Glendale by the Arizona people saying they want to get it out there to know that we're not going to give in on whatever it is that they need to give in on to get that deal done.
Well, there was not an inkling, nothing, up until Friday when the news came out. But it would be a stretch to say that they had no idea. If they really had no idea, then
according to this, they toured over the past 3 months. So
right, so that would lead me to believe that they because it came out over the summer, I believe, that when so that would lead me to believe that if they've been touring other arenas in other cities over the last 3 months, that they knew by November that something was going to fall apart here. So I mean, I don't know whether the leak of them being in Seattle and Portland is to get leverage on ASU to have a better deal for this new arena that they want to build, or if it's leverage against Glendale if they think that that's their only option and they need leverage from against them to say, okay, well, we don't really need to go back here, cut us a better deal. I mean, I don't know which one is which, but right now let's just say it's a disaster because, like I said, Gary Bettman had basically his house in order at the All-Star break, and then the Islanders situation with Barclays came up, and this situation in Arizona, and they continue to be a headache that just keeps coming back every time.
I just got a text from somebody who said the difference between the two Seattle situations are the Key Arena is a city project.
Okay.
They're going to redo it. That's the city trying to redo it. Where the other arena is, a privately funded 100%. That's why that probably says, we're 100% funding this because they don't want the city to. they would rather, if you go to the people of Seattle, it's like, yeah, I'd rather have somebody 100% fund it than have to pay for it.
Right, but then they get all the profits instead of the city getting a chunk of the profits if the
right, which at the end of the day is a better deal for the city because I mean I can tell you that Ed Snyder 100% funded the arena here in Philly, and because of that, got very, very wealthy off of it. I mean, there's no question that it's a cash cow. Like, you actually can bring in, just the parking and everything that comes around it is yours.
But it's not just the parking, because that's pennies on the dollar. I mean, that's chump change. It's the concerts, it's the events, it's a lot of things.
Well, parking is a big part of it, yeah, and the concerts, because concerts are expensive. Parking is not, but parking and obviously revenue from merchandise and food, right, and all that stuff. There's so much more profit in that stuff than everybody knows. So, or probably you all do know, because we've all paid for things and know how expensive they are.
But as you said in one of your answers in your blog about Quebec will get a team.
It's they will.
I just don't know if I know that Gary Bettman is toting a very hard line here about teams moving, but there are so many situations out there. Carolina, the Islanders, now Arizona back, that one of those teams I think eventually will move. If there's an expansion team, I think it's going to be someplace like Seattle. They'll expand in the West and they'll transfer in the East.
Well, here's what we know about moving cities with Bettman, because the one time it's happened recently was, when Atlanta went to Winnipeg. And what happened through that process was really fascinating. Atlanta was for sale for a while and everybody knew it. Okay. But no one was allowed to talk about it. And people were specifically said, we don't want to see a rumor out there, this is where Basile screwed up, because Basile could have easily gotten involved with this. He could have bought Atlanta, and he could have moved them maybe to Hamilton or something like that. But he instead, wouldn't keep his mouth shut. Why the Winnipeg Jets got it done was that ownership group understood that they had to keep their mouth shut. So if you remember, Atlanta wasn't moving at all forever either. So.
And then in a day they're moving.
And they're moving, yeah. So what the NHL does is, in these situations is play. They have to play it that way, because they don't know until the deal's done. They've got to sell tickets. They've got to keep the fan base happy in that place. So they're not going to sit back and say some city's moving. I think you might be right on one of those teams, but I don't think it'll be the Islanders. But I think that besides that, is it possible to sit there and say that Arizona or Florida or Carolina could move? I think that's very possible.
Yeah.
If they get the right situation. The Islanders are a little different because of where they are, because of the fan base they have.
Yeah, I think there'll be some way that team will find a building. I don't know if they're going to go back to Nassau Coliseum, if that's possible, because like I think Russ said or Dan said, Provorov owns the Barclays and he owns Nassau Coliseum. So one way or the other, they're going to be, it's going to be a situation with the two of those two sides. So,
yeah.
But
I honestly do still believe in my heart that it's going to be Queens and they're going to build something there. And I think that's what's going to end up happening. And I think that they will temporarily figure it out, even if they have to stay, and even if they find a way to take a terrible deal to stay in Brooklyn for one more year, and they give Brooklyn everything they want, they'll do that to just maintain it. Even if the NHL is to subsidize that deal, they'll keep them there.
But how do you know that Quebec? How do you know that Quebec's getting a team? You haven't heard a peep out of them, and that's what.
Right.
Shipman
and also, I know, because I talked to people in Quebec who told me flat out that they were getting a team 7 years ago. That they were told that if they build the stadium, it was 7 years ago now. Jeez, that they were told if they build that stadium, that Gary Bettman promised them they would get a team eventually, and that's something that Bettman doesn't go back on.
No, and when NHL reporters were there, like Bob McKenzie was there at the Top Prospects game a couple weeks ago, he was effusive in his praise of the building. So that is a state of the art building. And they, like you said, they wouldn't have built it if they didn't know.
They didn't start building it until they knew they could get a team, and that was the bottom line. They built that knowing they could get a team, and I think if they wanted a team, they would have it by now. Like, I really do firmly believe that they wanted to bring Vegas and Quebec in at the same time, and because of the Canadian dollar, Quebec just held off a little bit longer because it would have been way more expensive for them at the time, and they were banking that maybe the U.S. dollar would go would go the other direction at some point, and they could make it a much better. Because I mean, you're talking about differences of hundreds of millions of dollars with the dollar the way it was. So I think the NHL gave Quebec the option. I really do. No one's ever admitted that, or no one's ever going to say that, but I think they gave Quebec the option. That Quebec said, "Well, we'll wait a couple years and let this play out." I think that's it. So it's all the time I have for today, guys. Thanks for a very quick show. Sorry about that. Sorry for being so late, but thanks for watching as always. We appreciate it. We'll be back tomorrow on a normal scheduled time. It's supposed to be snowing here like crazy, so I probably can do a show like 6-hour show for all I know. It's the craziest weather in the Northeast. When I got home today, just a little while ago, it was 68 degrees outside. And yet, when you open your app up, it says blizzard warning, 6 to 12 inches coming tonight. So it's just like, wow, you're sitting there, you're like, this is not possible. Like, I'm getting a text, blizzard warning, 6 to 12 inches coming. And right now it's 68 degrees outside. My son was outside in shorts for a little while, like running around the backyard. It's just insane. The whole thing is crazy. So anyway, we'll talk to you tomorrow. From as long as we don't lose power, we'll be here. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. Talk to you then.